Hey everybody, welcome back to Mac Kiteboarding. I'm Tucker, and today I'm going to bring you a quick review and overview of the Duotone Paradox SLS. So, if you aren't familiar with this board, what it is Duotone's latest mid-length offering. I would say this is most pointed at parawinging, but also as a winging option for those people that want a more efficient board, whether that be light wind or a bit more speed at takeoff for faster foils, or just a one board quiver. This board does have a lot of application. I would even throw foil drive or prone on this board if you're looking for something that's a little bit more stretched out, more speedy, just something that's a little easier to ride. So it's a quite versatile shape here, but primarily what this board has been designed for is winging, and specifically parawinging in the crossover between those two. So that's where we'll take a look at it predominantly. This guy here is 75 liters, 5'9" long, 20 inches wide, and they're not giving me a thickness dimension here, but it's rather thick. If you look at the chunky monkey here, it's got a big belly on it, and that's all right. Gives you a little bit more volume and ability to stay on the surface. So it's been an interesting ride on this guy. Had it out for a few sessions now and really enjoying it. Primarily parawinging, but also winging in some light wind, just to kind of test out how it is there as well. And it's performed admirably. As you'd expect from Duotone, they tend to be very good at making good boards, and with the parameters around what it's supposed to be used for, I think they really nailed it on this shape here. There's a few things going on. First off, we can start with just the overall shape here. It is a longer, narrower board than kind of average in winging land, we'll say, but fairly normal for parawing dimensions. It does give you that efficiency on the water. It does give you that easy lift off and that pumpability off the water with limited stickiness and surface tension. And it's very good at building speed on the water, especially from the parawing, which doesn't have a lot of upward lift, a lot of lift. It's got a lot of drive and forward pull, so you need to generate that lift on the foil from board speed rather than just the wing lifting your body weight off the foil and getting it to rise that way. So this board does that quite well. It is in the SLS carbon construction, so this thing is super solid. Without going to the hollow type construction, this is going to be Duotone's higher level of board build. In this particular model, it's their highest construction, their only construction for this one at this time. Nice pink, visible bottom here. We do have the rear drop-in style tracks here, and nice and long, so you can fit just about any foil in here. We've got a bit of a chop tail, we'll call it, or a kick tail almost on this guy. It's not really, an angled kick tail. It just kind of changes elevation here like a little cliff. That helps release off the tail once you get moving a little faster. But then when you're moving slower, you got a bit more tail there to create some lift so that the tail isn't sinking and you're not wheeling up. And that does its job there. The chimes along the rail here start kind of round and angular at the front, and then get a little flatter as they move back, a little wider and flatter. So these are still creating some good lift, but also not adding to the surface tension and the stickiness of the board, or when you touch down, it's going to rebound and release off the water quite easily, and that feature does that really well. Up front here in the middle, we've got a double concave here, kind of blending in to a flat bottom right here in the meat and potatoes section of the board, and that creates some good planability and directs the water flow down that flatter section of the board rather than just squirting it all out the sides like a hull would do here. So it's almost like a hull, almost like a tri-hull type of design on the front, but it's still funneling that water and jetting it down the flat part of the board for that maximum planability, because this board is going to act like a hull at slow speeds, but once it gets up to speed and you're really using, you know, the main section, the flat section of the board here, it's going to plane up to speed quite easily as well. So that's a unique feature of this board, as opposed to some other boards that are more displacement type holes rather than a planing hole. This one's sort of a hybrid, which works quite well for what we need out there parawinging. The rocker line itself is quite flat underneath your feet. So again, that section is planing quite well. It does have some good flip in the nose. So as compared to a lot of other parawing specific boards, that's going to push a little bit more water initially. It's not going to cut through the water quite as cleanly at first, but then once you get up to speed and then that kind of extra rocker, extra aggressive nose there gets off the water, and then you're really, you know, in the section where the board's going to take off and accelerate a bit more quickly. So that's the design choice they make. I think it works well for this design specifically. Is it always better? You know, probably not. I think it depends on the rider and what you're looking to do and what kind of pumping technique you have. But I will say, I think this board is quite easy for new riders to get up and get off the water with your average size parawing foil. So they kind of hit the mass market with this guy here. Going to the deck here, we do have a little extra nose bump here up front, get a little extra volume up front here, and sinks down into where the cockpit is here, where the deck pad is. This is predominantly flat in both directions. I mean, it probably put a level on it. It's almost flat. Once you get up near the rail, we got a little bit of some concave here that you can feel, and it gives you a little leverage if your feet are out wide, just to feel it and give a little gas in the turn, but also so you kind of know where you're at on the board without looking down. You can kind of feel where that is, and you get a really good understanding of, okay, I'm in my sweet spot. That works really well. The marks on the traction pad are also quite nice. Having this sort of pink area here in the middle, that's, you know, right about where the center of your stance is while you're riding. The front foot traction pad area here and where the foot straps mount are a nice place to put your knees when you're starting, as well as your front foot. So they've picked those really nicely. Using this with a strap works really well in that location. And naturally parawing, I think a lot of times you do have a narrower stance with these more glidey foils, with, you know, these boards that maybe don't need to be manhandled quite as much. Bringing your stance in a little bit helps you find that sweet spot over the foil and be a little bit more comfortable as you're gliding. And then of course you can drop your legs and really get into some hard turns that way as well if you need more stance to do that. Interesting point on the straps, we have kind of a V-strap area here, so you can set up one strap like I have, or a V-strap here. There's no strap options in the back. We're seeing this as kind of a trend in parawing. There's not a lot of people jumping. They are jumping, they're not jumping very high, so it's easy to do with just a single front strap. So that cuts on some weight, and predominantly people aren't using straps. I think more people are in light wind, or those people that are used to riding straps, you know, kind of find the comfort in having a strap and a foot placement, and that helps. So the front one is there if you want it, but they're not adding a rear one, saving on that weight since most people aren't using a rear strap for parawing. In the middle here, we have our air vent. This is a Gore-Tex automatic air vent, so you don't need to do anything with it unless it becomes damaged and you need to replace it, but it's going to come ready to go, so you can just leave it alone and not worry about it. It's going to automatically vent out any extra pressure and not allow water to enter, which is great. So that is what she looks like. Those are some of her features. My experience on this board has been very positive. It's designed, you know, chiefly for parawinging, and it works phenomenally for that as long as you're picking the right size. For me, around 90 kilograms, 75 liter works well for me as an intermediate to advanced parawinger in most conditions. I would definitely size up for winds under maybe 15 knots or so, depending on the parawing I'm using. But any underpowered situation, you know, I can still sink this board underwater under my weight if I'm not moving. So it would be a little bit more challenging to learn on or ride in light winds. So depending on where you're at in that spectrum and what kind of conditions you're riding in, you may want to size down, or if you're lighter than me, size up, or if you're lighter than me, size down, sorry. Heavier than me, lighter winds, more of a beginner, size up. Lighter than me, higher winds, more aggressive, you could size down a little bit on this guy. Generally, I'm not personally a fan of thicker boards. You know, this one's probably getting close to 5 inches or more in thickness, and I don't like being removed from the foil that much. But this board does do it quite well. I don't notice the thickness quite as much as I normally would. And it is nice to have a little bit more volume on those lighter days, or if you're riding a really small foil like I have been recently, in that kind of 700 range, and you just need a bit more board speed to help that foil take off. You're not getting as much lift from the foil, from the buoyancy of the foil. So having a little extra board there to help you with that can be really nice, so you don't need to ride so lit on your parawing to get up. You know, of course, you can always ride a really small board and foil, but then you need a bigger parawing and you're kind of instantly out of control, especially with these faster downwind style foils, you know, for maximum glide. They really want to build that apparent wind, and it can be a problem if you're too powered, because you just keep exponentially increasing your apparent wind. And it's like, man, when you're taking off, you're already getting your arms ripped off, but then you get going 20, 25 miles an hour on the board, and you're really, you know, putting a lot of extra wind through that sail, creating a lot of extra power that you need to then deal with. So all that to say, having that extra volume can give you some more forgiveness in those conditions, can help extend the range down into the lighter winds a little easier. And on a board like this, you know, you're typically not ripping ultra high performance surf turns like you would on, you know, a prone board, like you would on a really small wave wingboard. You know, this is more glide, this is more, you know, cruise. You can rip some good turns on it for sure, but you're gonna have to nurse them a little bit more generally with the foils you ride for parawinging. So it's a good match. Personally, would I like it more if they had added it maybe a ½ inch here, an inch or two here, made the deck thinner? It's hard to say. I think, you know, definitely that might be more my style, but maybe not everyone else's. I would say, you know, that board is more like the KT Arc, which has been a favorite of ours. That is a little bit bigger per volume in terms of length and width, and then, you know, more of a scooped deck. So I think that's the comparison. If you want a board that's a bit more compact with more volume, this would be a great choice as opposed to the KT Arc, which has been one of our favorites for parawinging lately. So it's nice to have those flavors to choose from, depending on how you are riding personally. Getting into the nitty gritty, I think one thing they've done well but could do better is I love how the deck comes almost to the apex of the rail here. So while this board's only 20 inches wide, it feels wider than that compared to some other 20-inch wide boards because it gives you more real estate to stand on. It's a useful width, and you gain a little extra volume at the rail line, which gives you more stability as well. One thing I do wish they had done better in the same way, though, is to make the traction pad extend all the way to this hard angle on the rail. That way you can stand on it, you can leverage against it, but also this is a point of vulnerability in the construction. Anytime you have a hard angle like that, this thing's going to get kind of beat up and need repair more than any other part of the board because of that hard angle at the rail. So if you hit it with your harness, if you hit it with your bar from your parawing or your elbow or something or whatever, you know, you have a hard impact on that edge, that's going to cause damage more easily than it will, you know, something a bit more blunt. So extending the pad there is going to offer some extra protection, as well as, you know, more playground for your feet to use if you need it in a hard turn. So that's one small detail. If you're feeling crazy, you can even add a little extra strip of traction pad there or some rail guard to help protect it if you don't need extra traction pad. Again, small detail, I can pick these things to death from my personal perspective. You know, other people aren't going to need it necessarily, or you know, maybe they're more worried about the traction pad peeling up at that point, which is a fair argument, but personally, I would rather have the traction pad extend all the way there, give you more real estate, give you a bit of protection on that hard edge here on the rail, because I do expect with some hard usage, that will be a point of repair, most likely. So this here is the Duotone Paradox. Big fan, great construction, quite light given its size, but still, you know, quite robust. It's a really nice construction that they've worked out the past few years. If you're into parawinging or you want to get into parawinging, this is a great choice as a do-it-all board. Pick the right size and it's going to cover a really big territory in the parawing realm. And then also it's going to work great for those lighter wind days winging, or if you want to size down, maybe you already have a downwind board for the really light stuff parawinging, you can then cross over as kind of a one board quiver between winging and parawinging. That's really going to cover a lot of ground. It's a very efficient shape, still super rippable in your average sizes. So it's a nice one to put in your quiver to cover a lot of ground. As I mentioned, you could certainly prone this shape. You can throw a foil drive on it, although I believe you will need an antenna or to make some modifications to get clear signal, because this board does have a lot of high quality carbon in it. So that's that for that information. If y'all have any questions, comments, maybe you've ridden one, want to tell us about your experience, please put those in the comment section below. Help us all grow. You know, we're not the only voice. We want to hear what everyone else has to say, and maybe somebody had a different experience than me. Maybe not, I don't know. So let's find out with that. If anybody has any specific questions to your conditions, your ability, sizing, reach out to us here at the shop. Phone, chat, email, whatever. We'd be happy to chat it through and find you the right size so that you can get out there and start having a lot of fun on these parawing things, because man, is it awesome. This has been Tucker with MACkite Boarding. We'll see you next time.